Okay, so here we are again with another G.I. Joe Classified Series unboxing, and this is Cobra, Dreadnok, Road Pig, and Rawkus. Now, this figure has been the subject of some controversy. A lot of people do not like the head sculpt of this figure, and a lot of people feel like this figure is too fat. And they also feel like there are too many tattoos on this figure, but that's kind of par for course for the G.I. Joe line lately, isn't it? So, this is the first of many G.I. Joes that I'll be opening this week. I don't even know if I'll have time to open them all this week, so they might wind up spilling into next week somewhat. But we've got a whole bunch of them, so let's go ahead and get started on that. And then the week after that, or whenever I finish these up, I got a whole bunch of DC Multiverse we got to get to. So without further ado, let's dive into this. Here's the picture on the back with Road Pig and Rawkus, and of course they're at the gas station, which is the usual hangout of the Dreadnoks. You got the shield over here. You got a teddy bear with a little note attached to it that says Zorana, because he's sweet on Zorana. And of course we got some grape soda cans scattered about. Here's a car battery, some oil drums, basic things that you see at a service station. This is the Road Pig head sculpt with the open mouth. Let's go ahead and open them up and have a look at it. Oh wait, there's a QR code on the side, and the esoteric symbols, which I don't understand what they mean, and not much artwork on here. We got this one picture over here with Road Pig wearing his boar helmet, and Rawkus, and a completely different Dreadnok's tattoo on his tummy than what he has on the actual figure. So, and that's what the top of the box looks like. Pretty plain. Figure number 135. Wow. That's a lot of figures. And I've got probably most of them. I know I don't have all of them. I know there's like some convention exclusives and things like that I'm missing. So, but I've managed to get most of the ones that I want, so that's good. All right. And there's the backdrop with the Cobra emblem on there. Not the Dreadnok emblem, it's the Cobra emblem. They're not separating the Cobras from the Dreadnoks the way that they used to, whereas the Dreadnoks were not considered members of the Cobra organization. They were a separate faction that just happened to be aligned with Cobra somewhat, and not officially affiliated with. Basically, they were mercenaries who worked for Zartan, and Zartan worked for Cobra. So we got this accessory, which is some kind of nasty looking hook with spikes on the handle. And I kind of glossed over the brick on a stick, a cinder block weapon that traditionally Road Pig comes with. But we got a lot of other accessories in here, like that hook and this large hammer sculpted into a boar's head, and got a meat tenderizer kind of texture on the other side of it. So this could do some damage. Got a spike on that end. That whole thing looks deadly. And then we have a helmet head. This is not a helmet that fits over his head. This is a separate head. See, there's the head joint underneath the socket for the ball. And it looks like it's a taxidermied boar head, leather hanging off the back, so pig skin. And it's got some red goggles in it, which don't look like they would match up with his actual eyes at all. But Road Pig is not the smartest of fellows, so he probably didn't think that through very well. And most of it is like one of these kind of World War I type German helmets, like bikers would oftentimes be seen wearing in the mid to late 20th century. I don't know if bikers really wear those anymore. So they're getting harder to come by. And there's other implications to, you don't necessarily think of a World War I helmet immediately. You think of the other World War with Bad Mustache Man, and nobody wants to be associated with that. And Road Pig, let's see, another accessory he comes with is this riot shield, and I believe this is the same riot shield that I think it's the same riot shield that Shockwave came with, but just repainted. Unfortunately, mine's packed away right now, so I can't really get to it. And it's got that that boar on the front of it, and it says, "Good luck." And you're gonna need luck to go up against this guy. All right, and then lastly, Road Pig has a couple of extra solid fists, so we'll get to those real quick. And they do look a little smaller than the hands that are on him, maybe just because they're open, but they're basically just solid fists with you can see fingerless gloves on there. So, and the last accessory Road Pig comes with is he comes with this mask, because he's very conscious of, you know, people getting COVID, so he wants to make sure that that doesn't happen. So that's nice of him. Very considerate, Road Pig. And then we have Rawkus, who is a pit bull. And here's a nice head. For anybody who's ever had a pet pit bull, they can be very gentle animals. And I've known lots of pit bulls who have been the sweetest dogs on earth. But these are ones that haven't been mistreated. Unfortunately, like a lot of the times, pit bulls get mistreated because they get put into dog fights and things like that. That's usually when you have a problem with a pit bull, it's really a problem with the owner. But the animals themselves naturally are just very sweet and used to be used as nanny dogs a lot of the time. So, and here we have one that's a little more. The head that's on there has got a little bit more of that anger. A lot of good articulation on this guy, so let's go over it. So Rawkus can look up about that far and look down about that far, but he's also got other articulation at the base of the neck, so you can move it up about that far and down about that far, and both of these rotate all the way around. So there we go. Rawkus can rotate his front leg all the way around at the shoulder, but it does kind of run into the shoulder here. Technically, though, it should go all the way around, but I'm not going to do it, so I'm not going to put stress on it. You can see the leg has an articulation right here. That's about the extent of that. And then another one here at what would be the ankle, and then another one here at the paw. And the paw does appear to be a rocker ankle, which can move around, but this one's kind of stuck. This one moves around a little bit more. Lots of good paint details on here. We got some white overspray down the bottom of his chin and throat and down to the top of his chest. Unfortunately, there's no overspray on the paws, so they just kind of go straight from white to brown. There's a little bit on the back paws, but not as much as I would like, and there's practically none that I can see on the front paws. Back leg can go all the way around again, and can kind of somewhat do a little bit of a split. Like if Rawkus sees a fire hydrant, he can do his business. He's not anatomically correct, so I'm guessing when they took him to the vet, they snipped a little too much. Oh, poor Rawkus. And Rawkus has a articulation at the middle here, which rotates all the way around, moves back and forth, up and down. A lot of good articulation on this guy for a pet. You know, a lot of times the animal companions that came with the vintage GI Joes, they were just kind of solid slugs and didn't really have any articulation to them whatsoever. But Rawkus does have plenty of articulation. This is a deluxe figure, which means he's got a lot of accessories. And a lot of the times with these deluxe figures, they kind of, I think, just put a ton of accessories in there to try to justify it being a deluxe figure when it really didn't have to be. But in this case, since he has an animal companion, that I think puts it over the top as far as being a deluxe figure. But I think this guy would be worthy of being a deluxe figure anyway. We're going to get to that in a minute. So here's the angrier looking head. He's got 3 different heads with the helmeted head and this angrier looking head, and we can see he's got like a knife earring, and like with the original Road Pig, he has white hair with a red stripe around the middle. But unlike the original Road Pig, he doesn't have any more white hair underneath the red stripe. It's all shaved off from down there. He looks like he's got some silver teeth, like a little bit of bling, and one tooth looks like it's just kind of rotted out. So nasty looking customer. A lot of people have been very critical about the head sculpt on Road Pig, and I don't really know what they want of a head sculpt of Road Pig, because to me, this kind of looks like a pretty decent update of the original action figure. He wasn't supposed to be like the handsomest of dudes. And if you look at that original, well, he's based on a guy who works for Hasbro. I feel kind of bad saying that, but you know, I'm sure they exaggerated it and made him look like worse than usual. So he probably wasn't really as ugly as that figure. But to me, yeah, that looks pretty much like it could be par for the course with the original Road Pig figure. So I don't really have a problem with it. A lot of people have a problem with the bulk of this figure because he looks too fat. But if you look at the abs, it's kind of hard to tell because of the Dreadnok tattoo there. But I think with the lighting, you can kind of see it bouncing off. He actually does have some abs there. He's got a six-pack. He's got some definition. So this is a guy who's like a wall of solid muscle. And yeah, he's got like a little bit of love handles, as it were. But for the most part, he's like a big, bulky dude. I don't really think the Dreadnok's tattoo on the tummy works out quite as well as they'd intended, if I'm being honest about it. And I've seen where some people have stripped it off, and then that shows off the definition of his abdomen a little more, and he looks a little more impressive. But let's go ahead and move on to some other aspects of this figure while we're looking him over. I feel like for the most part, it's pretty accurate to what we saw in the original Road Pig figure back in the 80s, but with some added details and accoutrements. So he's got a skull over here on his armor, which I have to imagine, given the size of it, is probably an actual dead person's skull. This is the skull of somebody that he killed and mounted to his armor. This is not a guy you want to mess around with. The original Road Pig did have a tattoo on his arm of the Anarchy A, which I very much remember that from when I was a kid. But this one's got a lot more tattoos on there. It's got this tattoo of a pig in a circle that says certified grade A ham. He is leaning really hard into this pig iconography, isn't he? And then he's got a chain around this bicep, fairly detailed, and then another tattoo over here, which it's got crossbones and some kind of looks like a hawk and a pig's head in the middle of it, and it says, does that say pork chop? Pork chop sandwiches, my God. I can't quite make out what it says. It definitely says pork something. I think it says pork chop. The pork chop sandwiches thing. Let's not get into that right now. We do have, though, the Roadblock figure, which I brought over here, my Tiger Force Roadblock. So we can compare the size of these guys. Now, Roadblock is supposed to be like a huge dude and bigger than any of the other members of the G.I. Joe team. And you can see how Road Pig dwarfs him. He's like at least a half-inch taller than, like, as far as like action figure heights, probably more like 6 inches in real world terms. And look at the size of his arms compared to Roadblock. This was the figure that was used for larger figures for the longest time. So we got this figure on Gung Ho. We got parts of them reused on Sergeant Slaughter. Parts of them were used on Bazooka. This was our big guy. This was our big guy. This is the big guy now. So you can imagine Roadblock being used to being like the biggest guy Cobra is used to facing down, and all of a sudden he's got to come up against this guy who just... Now imagine being Mainframe and you're you got a thing going on with the girl that this guy has a crush on, huh? Yeah. So they didn't really do much with uh, Road Pig in animation. He was on the Deke era cartoons some, but he was too late in the line to show up on the Sunbow cartoon. And on the Sunbow cartoon, they did have Zorana in a romantic relationship with Mainframe, which, talk about opposites attract there. But I kind of think it would be interesting. He had Road Pig had a crush on Zorana, and I always kind of got the feeling that Zorana wasn't really that into him. She was just kind of like manipulating him, as it were. So, but it might be interesting to do a story where you had like a love triangle thing between the three of them, and you know that means Mainframe's got to face off against this beast. So let's go ahead and have a look at him with some of these alternate heads. So first, let's put the helmeted head on there. And that's what that looks like. I've seen a lot of people displaying their Road Pig with this helmet, and it is a pretty cool helmet. But I think a lot of it is, like, again, people have kind of a problem with the head sculpts, as it were. But I don't really have a problem with head sculpts. In fact, I like them. I'm probably in the minority there, but I think that these head sculpts worked out really well. So, and I especially like this angrier looking one. That's the one that I'll be leaving on mine for display. He's got the same sort of leather codpiece like the original one had, with some silver studs on it. He's got silver shin guards, like a gunmetal gray kind of shin guards. And this one over here, again, has that sort of pig iconography to it. He's got the crossbow on the wrist launching crossbow, like the original Road Pig had. And in fact, he has some extra crossbow bolts over here on this leg. So there's crossbow bolts mounted to the straps here. So he's got plenty of crossbow bolts. Let's see what he looks like with some of these accessories. So here we go with the pig hammer, which I think is a nice looking accessory, but I will be, of course, more inclined to the brick on a stick, the cinder block hammer, because that's what I remember the original one coming with. So there's that. He does look pretty imposing with that. And let's go ahead and have a look at him with the cinder block hammer. He doesn't have the padding piece that the original Road Pig had, and instead has the riot shield as kind of a substitute. I'm not sure how well this is going to fit on him though, because it's more made to fit on Shockwave. Now we're going to have to put it onto the right wrist, because of course we've got the crossbow over there. So that means we're going to have to take the hammer out of his hand. And then I got to try to fit this into his hand, which looks like it's going to be easier said than done. And then is this even going to fit over? I don't even think it's going to fit. I don't want to take a chance on breaking it, so I'm not going to try to get it to fit. But it is kind of that sort of plastic that's got like a little bit of pliability to it. But I'm not going to take a chance on it. I don't want to break it. So, but there he is holding the shield for anybody really curious about that. So we got a brand new character in Rawkus that gives us a new addition to the Dreadnoks. Not necessarily a human being, but dogs are man's best friends. So in this case, I got to imagine he'd be some men's worst enemy, and I would not want to go up against him. But I feel like this is a pretty good representation of the original figure. Remember, the original Roadblock was sculpted with that same sort of bulkiness, and he was also, I think, in terms of bulk, probably like the largest of the classic G.I. Joe figures. That one did have like a little bit more of a V to it, though, whereas this one's just kind of a slab. So I can understand why somebody might look at this and think to themselves, that's not the Road Pig I remember from when I was a kid. But I see it, and I see the Road Pig that I remember from when I was a kid. He's a little bit different, but I think it's kind of almost more of a realistic version of the character than the original one that we got. Road Pig was used a lot in the comic book even when the figure was off the shelves, and he was popular enough. He got a second figure in the Sonic Fighters line. Larry Hama, obviously, if you read any stories with him and Road Pig, where he wrote Road Pig, obviously was really into this character and having a blast writing him. Which Larry's version of him had what we would now call, I think, dissociative personality disorder. So he had the Road Pig personality. He was just like a vicious monosyllabic brute. And then I believe Donald was the other one, and he spoke much more eloquently. And I imagined him having somewhat of a faux British accent, and surely my fair Zarana would appreciate me dealing with these curs in the most brutal manner possible. I shall allow Donald to take care of it. Donald, take care of it. That kind of thing. So, but yeah, he was having a blast writing this character, and Road Pig was a very popular character with the readers and the collectors of the action figures too. Like I said, he's the only Dreadnok besides Zartan to get a version 2 in the vintage line, I believe. So that ought to testify somewhat to the popularity of this character. It was inevitable that they were going to make Road Pig, and I'm kind of surprised actually that they had the discipline to go ahead and make like the 3 central Dreadnoks of Torch, Ripper, and Buzzer before they got around to Road Pig. I figured they'd do Road Pig even before they did any of those, just because Road Pig is so popular in his own right, and not necessarily as a member of the Dreadnoks. Like I said, in the when he appeared in the Deke animated series, this was the Dreadnoks were kind of gone from the line at that point. I think him and Zanzibar, I think, were the only 2 that really showed up during that that series. Maybe Zartan, but it might have been the Ninja Force version of Zartan if he showed up at all. So we haven't gone over the articulation on this guy yet, so let's go ahead and do that. So Road Pig can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. Tilts his head quite quizzically from side to side, which you're going to get a lot of use out of that joint because not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Arms, of course, rotate all the way around at the shoulders, but with this one, you're going to kind of bump into this this shoulder pad over here for a little bit. He does have a backpack hole, even though I don't think he has anything that works with it. I don't think any of these have a backpack peg on there that I could see. But if you want to put a backpack on there, you're able to, because he does have a backpack hole on. So he does have a bicep swivel. Bicep rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed elbows, which work surprisingly well, considering how muscle bound this guy is. He's got the really cool articulation here at the mid torso, so you can move him around any which way you want. Same with the lower part of the torso where he meets the waist. Road Pig can kick up about that far, but it doesn't seem like it wants to stay up that far because his legs are kind of muscle bound. He does have a thigh cut, so the thigh rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed knees for what it's worth, except for this one's stuck really bad. So we're going to try the other one. Yeah. So that's about the range of motion you get at the knee. He does have a boot cut, so the boot rotates all the way around, and he's got rotated ankles, ankle rockers. So those can point down about that far, point up about that far, and they rotate all the way around. Road Pig is one of those iconic G.I. Joe characters that I know fans have been wanting for a long time. And despite the fact that, fans have their nitpicks about this figure, and, you're entitled to pick your nits. I'm not complaining. I'm not saying that you're wrong for picking your nits, but for me, I don't have too many nits to pick. I do think they went a little overboard on the tattoos, which they tend to go overboard on the tattoos on all these figures nowadays because they could do a lot more and more detailed tattoos than they could back in the 80s. So I don't really blame them. I don't really blame the designers at Hasbro for wanting to take advantage of new technology. It seems like every character we get nowadays has tattoos on them, though, and it used to be in the 80s much more of a rare occurrence. And characters with tattoos were a little more special, I think, back then. And Road Pig, of course, like I said, was one of those characters that had tattoos. He had the Anarchy symbol on his arm. And this one has a lot more tattoos, and I think most of them actually are pretty cool. But like I said, the one that I feel like doesn't really work is the Dreadnoks over the abdomen here, because for one thing, it's like barely even legible at all. And besides, Road Pig can't read, so it's not like he's gonna even know. But yeah, so I kind of feel like that's the one that could go. And indeed, when I've seen customizers strip it off and it shows off a little bit more of the detail of the musculature of his abdominals, I feel like that actually improves the look of the figure. I've seen a lot of people do alternate heads, and they've been really good alternate heads, maybe even better than this one. But I'm not one who's going to hate on this head. I think this head's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I think I'm going to stick with this angry head. I like that one in particular. So I might be in the minority as far as my appreciation of this figure, and in particular that head sculpt. Look at that. They even gave him like a little bit of airbrushing there to give him some stubble, some dark stubble. I don't think he's a natural white-haired guy. I don't think he actually went prematurely gray or anything. I think that's just bleached out. But yeah, the stubble is much darker, so maybe he's got black hair in actuality. I'd mentioned the Sonic Fighters version of Road Pig, and he had orange hair actually. And it might be fun to get a second one of these and repaint it, but I might also want to wait around and see if Hasbro actually does that themselves and see what they do with Road Pig. So for a version 2, but I'm happy with this figure as it is. So if I do anything, it's probably going to be to strip the tattoo off of the tummy, because like I said, I think they could have done a better job with that. And also another slight grievance I have is you might notice that this wrist joint over here is not the tightest, and that would probably be okay with most accessories, but considering how both of his main accessories are these kind of melee club weapons, probably would have worked better to tighten this up a little bit. I might see if I could fill it in with some glue or some paint or something, and see if maybe I can get that to be a little tighter. I don't know. But I think that's it for this episode. I've been talking almost for 30 minutes about this figure, and that's plenty. So I'll be back with another G.I. Joe figure tomorrow. I think maybe I'll do Raptor. I don't know. I'm going to try to do one tomorrow anyway. If I do, it's going to be like really early in the morning. My work schedule's kind of changed around a little bit right now. So right now, Tuesday is the hardest day for me to do a video on. But I'm going to try to do one anyway, just because I've got so much stuff to go over. And I don't really have the luxury of taking that much time off from this channel anymore, because I'm so behind on everything. But I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, make sure that you like and subscribe, and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Road Pig, both the figure and the character in general. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.